Hey, you guys. So I thought maybe since I don't know when we'll be back in homeroom, we should read a little bit more of our book. So if you want to find out how the book is going to continue from here, I thought today it's Tuesday, March 31st. I'm going to read another chapter in Framed. I miss seeing you guys every morning. And yeah, I'm going to read the next chapter. So when we last read in the story, Agent Rivers was having dinner at Florian's house. So anyway, we are in chapter 19. It's called Capital Crush. And just so you know, I did email Simon & Schuster, the publisher, and got permission from them to read the chapters of this book. In fact, I've gotten permission to read the rest of the book on this video if need be. I've also told them that I would remove this video by June 15th, I guess, by the end of the school year, if we don't have the opportunity to get back to school this year. They know that this video will be taken down after that time, but they have given us permission to read it. Chapter 19, Capital Crush. The next morning, I rode my bike to Deal Middle to watch the championship game of the U13 Washington Area Girls Soccer League. The match was played on the big field behind the school, and when I got there, I was amazed by how many people had turned out. Margaret had already told me all about the team they were facing. The Capital Crush had won back-to-back city championships and was looking to become the first team ever to win 3 in a row. They wore red and white striped jerseys, and their supporters hung a huge banner on the fence that read, "Crush It." I headed for the opposite sideline and found Margaret's parents in a cluster of Dynamo fans. "Did I miss anything?" I asked. "No," said Mrs. Campbell. "Your timing's perfect. They're just about to do the tornado." The tornado. Margaret had told me all about that too, but I didn't fully appreciate how cool it was until I saw it in person. It started with the team forming a tight circle in front of their goal. Their arms were wrapped around each other's shoulders, and they swayed side to side and started chanting DCD, DCD for DC Dynamo. They got louder and louder and swayed more and more until the circle looked like it was about to spiral out of control. Finally, one of the girls let out a piercing yell, and they scattered from the huddle and ran to their positions. Everyone on our sideline went nuts. "That was impressive. I'm glad I didn't miss that," I said when the noise died down. Although I meant to get here earlier so I could give her a pep talk. Her dad laughed. "It's probably best that you didn't." "Why's that?" I asked. "Margaret's not exactly chatty before a big game," he explained. When I saw her face, I instantly realized what he meant. The girl I normally hung out with, the goofy, brainy girl who was always smiling, bore little resemblance to the one who lined up to play center midfielder. This one was oblivious to the world beyond the sidelines. She focused an intense stare straight ahead at her opponent, while she loosened up her shoulders and gently rocked up and down on the balls of her feet. It was unnerving. "Where have I seen that look before?" I asked. "The zoo," replied her mother. "It's the same expression the tiger has right before feeding time." We all laughed because it was true. The game was exciting from start to finish, and both teams played great. The Crush scored early, but the Dynamo tied it up right before halftime. It was still 1-1 when Margaret moved up out of position, stole a pass between 2 defenders, and sprinted all alone toward the goal. Their keeper, who played brilliantly all game long, charged out to challenge her, but Margaret put on the brakes and chipped the ball over her head and sent it fluttering into the net. "Did you see that?" Mrs. Campbell squealed, jumping up and down. "Did you see that?" It was a memorable play, but nothing like the one the Capital Crush pulled off in the final moments of the game. They were awarded a free kick, and, desperate to tie the score and force overtime, all of their players moved forward and flooded the penalty area. 2 of them even started arguing about who should take the kick. Then, in the middle of the argument, another player sneaked in and kicked the ball to the other side of the field. It was a trick play designed to give one of their players an open shot, and it worked perfectly. No one was near her as she got the ball and volleyed it to the top left corner of the goal. Everyone on the DC Dynamo had been caught off guard, watching the argument. except for Margaret. She'd slipped in behind the keeper and taken a spot on the goal line. As the ball rocketed toward the net, she jumped up and headed it just enough to send it over the crossbar. Both sidelines went bananas. While Mr. Campbell and I did so many high fives, the palm of my hand turned red. 2 minutes later, the referee blew the whistle, ending the game, and Margaret's teammates swarmed around her. Somewhere in the middle of the celebration, she looked toward the sideline, and we locked eyes. It was the first time I saw her smile that day. It lasted only a second because 2 more players piled on top of her, and they all tumbled to the ground. I knew the team was going to their coach's house for a party, so I said goodbye to Margaret's parents and headed for the bike rack. The school is a massive 3-story brick building that seems even larger because it sits on the top of a hill. I walked around to the front and was unlocking my bike when I heard someone coming toward me. I looked up and saw that it was Margaret. Despite being exhausted from a grueling game in the summer heat, she had run all the way up the hill after me. "Where are you going?" she asked in between deep breaths. "Home," I said. "Without saying anything to me?" "I didn't want to interrupt the celebration," I explained. "I figured we'd talk later." "You're my best friend, Florian. By definition, that means you can't interrupt me. You're always a part of whatever I'm a part of." It was, without a doubt, the nicest thing anyone had ever said to me. "I'll remember that in the future," I said. "By the way, you were amazing, incredible, unbelievable. It took my breath away." She grinned. "It was a good game, wasn't it?" I laughed. "You could say that." "Thanks for saving that last goal," she said. "I don't know if we could have held them off in extra time." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "Without you, I never would have headed that ball over the crossbar." "Yeah, right." "I mean it," she replied. "The 2 players who got into the argument, I had noticed them whispering to each other right before that. I thought that was strange. Then I realized their best goal scorer was in the absolute wrong place, totally away from the play. So I ignored the big thing, which was the argument, and added up the little things." "You mean you used toast?" she said, finishing my sentence. "Toast absolutely won that game." Now I was the one who was grinning. "I'm going to keep the trophy and all," she continued, "but I couldn't have done it without you." I looked up at the entrance to the school. It was imposing, with tall white columns and 3 pairs of dark blue doors. "2 more days until we start," I said. "You're not worried about Deal, are you?" "I always worry about new schools," I answered. "Don't. You're going to do great," she assured me. "Why? Because the school's loaded with geeky kids who have mad mystery-solving skills?" "No," she answered, "because I'll be there." "That should take care of it," I replied. "Now go back and get your trophy and have fun at the party." "Okay, I'll see you later." She jogged back down the hill to where her teammates were waiting. When she reached them, they swarmed her all over again. Despite her assurance, I was still a little nervous about starting in a new school. Again. Each time presented new challenges. I was in no rush to get home, so I rode around the neighborhood for a while to get a better feel for it. First, I went to a castle-looking building right by the campus called Fort Reno. It was it was used to defend Washington during the Civil War, and now it's a park. According to one of the information plaques, it's the highest point in the city. After that, I had a couple slices of pepperoni and sausage at a pizzeria with free ping pong and foosball. I was just about to play a kid in foosball when I noticed a man watching me as he talked on his cell phone. He was thin and muscular with short red hair and aviator sunglasses. He was also the only person in the building who wasn't working, eating, or playing. "You going to play?" the boy asked me. "No," I said. "I just realized what time it is and have to get home." Since the red-haired man was between the front door and me, I decided to slip out the back. Unfortunately, it opened onto an alley where there was another man waiting for me. He was tall and lean and wore the same sunglasses as the guy inside. "Stop right there," he said. I instantly thought back to Kayla's self-defense training and tried to get into position. "Are you Johann Blankfort?" he asked. At first, I didn't recognize the fake identity I'd been given, so I barked, "No." Then I thought about it for a second and said, Yes. Who wants to know? I'm Agent Chaffee of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, he said in that direct FBI way. And I'm Agent Kendall, said a voice from behind. I turned and saw that the redhead had followed me out. Agent Rivers asked us to come and get you and bring you straight home. Just then, I heard a text signal on my phone. That's him telling you to trust us, said Kendall. I was just speaking to him on the phone. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, and indeed, there was a text from Rivers. It's okay. Go with them. Okay, I said. So what's going on? He didn't tell us that, replied Chaffee. He just said to get you. They led me to a black SUV, and when I got in, I saw that they'd already loaded my bike into the back. Hey, that was locked, I protested. You might want to get a new one, Chaffee said, tossing the lock to me. This one was pretty easy to pick. I started to ask how they found me when I remembered the tracking chip inside the Smart Trip card for the Metro. It took only a few minutes to make it to the house, and when we pulled up, I saw the maroon hybrid parked in front. I was excited because I thought there might have been a big break in the case, so I hurried up the front steps and went inside. Florian, my mother called out. We're in the kitchen. I found my parents sitting around the table with Agent Rivers and another agent I didn't recognize. They all looked worried. What's the matter? I asked. Were you at a soccer game today? Rivers asked. On the field behind your school? Yes, I said. It was great. Margaret's team won the championship and... Did you see this man when you were there? He said, cutting me off as he placed a photo on the table. I picked it up and studied it. It looked like a surveillance picture, taken from a distance with a long lens. The man looked both stylish and menacing at the same time. He had on a nice suit, but his face was tight and muscular. Not that I remember, I said, but there were a lot of people. Well, he was there, he said, and we think he may have been there because of you. Who is he? I asked. Rivers sighed before answering. He's an EEL crime boss named Nikolai Nevrisko, but his enemies call him Nick the Knife. That sounds bad, I said with a gulp. What do his friends call him? He doesn't have any friends. That's the end of the chapter. Next time, we'll read chapter 20, The Underground. Just a reminder that if you haven't been already doing so, it looked like most of you had, but don't forget about checking in. There's this daily check-in on Schoology in our homeroom group, and that's the way that you submit your attendance for each day to let me know that you're here. And if you are ever running into any problems on Schoology, you can always send me an email just to let me know that you're here for the day. That does have to be submitted by 1 o'clock each day to let me know that you are in attendance for the day. If I don't get that notice by 1 o'clock, I have to mark you absent for the day, and then you'll get a follow-up phone call to your house just so that we can figure out kind of what's going on. So just a heads up on that, and if you have any questions about anything, send me a message on Schoology or send me an email. I hope you guys are doing well. Like I said, I miss seeing you, and I'm looking forward to when we can all be back together again. Okay, talk to you later.